Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new M. Night Shyamalan film Glass. Glass is a film that's both a sequel to Unbreakable and Split. It's supposedly a trilogy in a Unbreakable trilogy. It's like the third part of it. Um, so I'm a really big fan of the first, Unbreakable. Came out in 2000, the year after Sixth Sense. Been a big fan of it ever since day one. Split was enjoyable. There's things about it that I liked. I really liked that it was a part of the same universe as Unbreakable back when that came out. I've been kind of on a on and off journey with M. Night Shyamalan. There's films that he's made that I've loved, and there's films that he's made that I really did not like at all. So going into this movie, I was kind of hoping for a really good Shyamalan film and definitely something hopefully far away from the bad ones. But let me kind of go over kind of how I felt about the movie, and hopefully I can clarify kind of where I stand with that statement. So, in Glass, you guys, like I said, this is the third installment and supposedly the final installment in this Unbreakable trilogy. And David Dunn from Unbreakable, we found out over the years that he's been, taking out criminals, kind of just doing small little, taking care of small little crimes in the area that he lives. His son still believes he's the superhero, and he, like in Unbreakable, whatever he touches, he can kind of see the history of that person, see if it's worth pursuing for if they're going to do another crime or not. So him and his son, with his son's computer technology, they're able to kind of do it in a more smart way. But things kind of take a twist for David Dunn when he encounters Kevin Wendell Crumb, who is basically James McAvoy's character from Split, and follows him around after kind of seeing all the horrible things that he's capable of through a flashback, and follows him to this factory. He's basically still doing the things that we saw from Split, taking girls, using them as sacrifices, sacrificing them to the beast when he turns into the beast. So David Dunn stops this right away, but shortly after that, both him and the Beast are taken into an institution, and we find out about a psychiatrist played by Sarah Paulson, and she is supposedly a psychiatrist that specializes in people who believe they have superpowers, whether they're the superhero or the supervillain or whatever kind of comic book character they might believe that they are. So basically, she takes both guys in, uses them for research, basically has a way of kind of not only locking them in a cell, but kind of locking them in a cell that will kind of keep them there. With David Dunn, it's water, since that was his weakness in Unbreakable. And with James McAvoy, it's like this little flashlight thing that turns him into a different personality, that kind of a weaker personality, I guess, for every flash that they have to do. So that kind of keeps him in his cell. And what we don't know right away is that Mr. Glass from Unbreakable, played by Samuel Jackson, is also locked away in this institute. That's where he's been since the events of Unbreakable. So once the three of them kind of are in a room together eventually in the institution, and the research kind of involves all three of them with the psychiatrist that specializes in people who have superpowers, that's when things kind of get interesting. They kind of turn weird, and they kind of turn complicated after all three of these people are put together in the same place in the same institution. So overall, guys, I thought Glass was all right. There's things about Glass that I really like, and there's things about Glass that I really didn't like. It's one of those movies where for every really good thing I can say about it, there's just as many bad things I can say about it too. So an overall feeling with the movie for me is I thought it was okay. Really didn't love it. Really didn't hate it. Kind of a love-hate relationship with me with this movie. So I would just say overall I thought it was okay. So for my positives and negatives of this movie, I thought the first 30 minutes are definitely what I thought an Unbreakable sequel could be and what they could do. I loved catching up with David Dunn, seeing what he's been doing over the past 19 years since Unbreakable. So the first 30 minutes, if you're looking for a great Unbreakable sequel, that's kind of what Glass does for about the first 30 minutes, I would say. I also love all the stuff they did with the Beast. James McAvoy once again gives a good performance as the character. I thought it wasn't as goofy this time. There's goofy moments. There's moments of levity. It wasn't quite as in your face, I would say, as Split was. And like I said earlier, I admired Split. There's things in it that I liked. Not a great movie, I would say, for that one, but I definitely liked that they brought back the Beast and kind of brought him back in a more interesting way, at least for me personally, anyway. And once again, I loved all the Unbreakable elements in this movie. So whenever it's about David Dunn or his son kind of believing him and being this superhuman that he's always thought he's been, when they cover the stuff about Robin Wright, we kind of figure out what happens to her, what how we feel about David Dunn and how we felt about Mr. Glass over the years, when we go revisit the train crash and just all the Unbreakable stuff. All the Unbreakable stuff I thought was really, really cool. Those elements in this film I thought were really interesting. All the stuff with David and his son, like I said, the whole thing with his son being on a computer, kind of being smart about these crimes that David Dunn takes on and so forth. All the stuff that they had between the son and himself I thought was really interesting. This is also a very well directed film. I thought I'll give M. Night Shyamalan credit. It's better directed than it was written. I thought he did a better job directing this film than writing it. So I thought directing wise, it's a well directed movie. I also thought the acting was very good in this movie. Sarah Paulson plays a character that we haven't seen yet. This is kind of the only Unbreakable film that she's appeared in so far, and if it's the last Unbreakable film, this will be the only film we see her play this role in. But not only her, but Anya Taylor-Joy, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, James McAvoy, the actress who plays the mother of Mr. Glass. All of them were very, very good in this movie. Acting wise, I really didn't have any complaints regarding that at all with this movie. So I really like the acting in the movie. M. Night's cameo, M. Night Shyamalan, like Alfred Hitchcock, likes to cameo in all his films. I thought how they handled his cameo in this was very good. They kind of go back to something he did in Unbreakable when he cameoed in that. So for those who really watch closely and what he says in one scene, they cameo him in a very interesting way, which I thought was kind of cool. Anya Taylor-Joy plays her character from Split this movie. They do some kind of things that really aren't super clear with as to why she's in it and stuff like that. But there's moments where the things that she did in Split, as far as getting out of tough situations, they kind of revisit that. And as a result, the stuff they do with her character, I thought was kind of interesting too. Now for my negatives of Glass. The last act, the third act of this film, is very sloppy. It throws like 5 or 6 twists at you at once. There's so much going on. It's all like in a parking lot. The third act is really sloppy, really bad. You think they're going to go into on a direction that they never go in. There's just so many loose ends. I didn't like the third act of the film. It's very, very sloppy. I also don't like the idea of people trying to hide heroes from the world. Um, there's this. I can't get into too much detail on this one because it might be spoiler territory. But um, Unbreakable for me, that very first Unbreakable movie, it never really was about that. It was kind of more about kind of like what Quentin Tarantino always said about the film. What if Superman came to Earth but never knew he was Superman? That's kind of what Unbreakable was. This man that really didn't know what he was, what his purpose was, why he was sad all the time. Why never being sick kind of strikes him as odd. I don't really view this, Unbreakable trilogy as heroes hiding from the world. It was more so about self-discovery, and I think Glass kind of throws that idea away, and I don't like that. I don't like the idea of switching from self-discovery to, oh, we got to hide all these heroes from everybody, otherwise they're going to question too much and freak out and all this kind of stuff. So that idea of hiding heroes from the world, that idea that they really try to push towards the third act, really didn't work for me very much. There's also a lot of poor creative decisions in this movie. I just, like I said, the third act alone is just really all over the place. There's just a lot of moments, like I said, for every good thing I like about Glass, there's a lot of decisions too that really don't work for me very much. I also don't like the idea that almost the whole film takes place in this asylum. Yeah, there's a good chunk at the beginning that doesn't, but there's a lot of scenes that take place in this asylum, and I really kind of like Unbreakable. I liked it when they were going to different settings all the time and doing different things all the time. But the fact that it's in an asylum almost the whole movie, I thought was really not a good creative choice. And there's a subplot with an organization with Sarah Paulson that really did not work for me. I don't know if they're trying to talk about GATS or if they're trying to talk about hidden businesses. But there was this whole subplot with an organization that really did not work for me. It's introduced way too late in this movie. It did not work for me. I also, like I said earlier, it really tries to do more than one twist towards the end. It's just all over the place, and it's hard to kind of decipher how you feel about everything, and it's thrown at you at once. And I don't know. I thought there was one too many twists in this movie. I also thought the use of point of view shots or POV shots was way too overused. I don't even remember if Split even had any in that movie, and I really don't remember Unbreakable having any of these kind of shots at all either. But the way they look very cheap. They don't look very professional. They looked very cheap in this movie. So the point of view shots I thought were very gimmicky, and they really didn't work well in this movie. So, like I said, guys, overall, Glass 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. There's things I like in this movie, but there's a lot of things I really didn't like in this movie. Unbreakable, I think, is a great movie. It's one of Shyamalan's best. Unfortunately, Glass is not going to be in that same league. Split's an enjoyable movie. There's things about it that I like. I think I like it better than Glass, obviously. But yeah, this film I thought was a pretty weak ending to this so-called trilogy. Really wish it could have been better after 19 years of waiting for a sequel to Unbreakable. Glass ended up being just okay. See it if you really want to, I guess. If you really like Unbreakable, maybe see it so you kind of know how Shyamalan chose to conclude that story. If you really like Split, you can do it for that reason too. Um, Me personally, I would just go say wait for the Redbox rental. Just wait to rent this one. I think paying full price in the theater is kind of ridiculous to see this movie. 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. Redbox rental this one if you really got to see it.